Hey, what is up guys? In this video, I'm going to be teaching you 5 beginner checkmates that every chess player must know. So I hope you enjoy and let's get started. Have you ever won your opponent's rook in a rook endgame, but you don't know how to mate with a rook and king? Well, that video solves that problem for you, because right now I'm going to be explaining how to mate with a rook and king. Like for example, in this position, where this might be exactly what you might get, and one of the most important things to do when you're mating with a king and a rook is just get the black king to the corner, because then you can actually mate. When the king is in the center, unlike with two knights and a queen or something, with the rook and king you can't mate in the center. So first you have to get the king to the corner. Let me show you how to do that. In this position, for example, you just go king c4, defending the rook, and you have to use your rook as kind of a wall. Like in this position, the rook like completely controls this whole file, and you have to take advantage of that. Like now, because the rook controls this file, king can't go here or here, and you can't just move the rook away here, for example, because then the king is free. So what you have to do is just keep your rook here, but keep the rook defended. So king c5, and you keep going like that until the king gets to the corner. If they keep going like that, then they're just screwed. So let's say they play a move like king f6, then we just go king d6, and if here, then here, or not there, then here, here, and you just keep pushing with the wall. And let's just get the king to the corner real quick of like here. Yeah, at one point when the king's already to the corner, like what you would play is king f6, king's in the corner, king h7, and in this position you have forced mate just because um in this position the king is like oddly placed right in the corner. So if here we just mate, and if here, then here, and only legal move for black is here where we just mate on e8. So that's how you mate. And if the king somehow magically is somewhere, like let me give you a position here, here, let's say here, and then here, no, here, let's say. And this usually wouldn't happen, but let's just say the king goes to d8 to stop, to like not allow this. Then instead of just keep chasing the king right away, because then you just end up in a draw, like you wouldn't get anything because the king would keep escaping. What you would actually do is you just kind of sneakily in this position, you go rook h7 to prevent king c7 with your rook, but not allow the king to just go back and forth. So then, if here, then we just mate in 1, so then the king has to go here. Then we just keep chasing it, controlling the file. If here, we mate again, and if here, we just keep chasing it, and eventually, after it gets to the corner and you go king b6, the king can't step out of the board. So he has to go back to b8, where we just mate. So that's how you mate with a king and a rook. The smothered mate is maybe not a must-know checkmate, but in many certain positions, it's very useful to have, just because it's so simple and easy to get, but so devastating too, because it's so hard to notice it when you're the one getting smothered mated. Like for example, in this position, where it looks like, sure, like this is an equal position. Like, black will survive. He has 2 rooks. This pawn will probably die because it's only defended by a queen. Then this pawn will be passed. Like, black's just fine. And then there's such a what's the word? Such a sneaky, such a spooky move. Queen g8 check. And you think like, what is that? But Before I show what happens next, let me just say the king can't take because then the king will be taken by the knight. So the only legal move is king or rook takes g8, and before I like give away the checkmates, notice just how satisfying it is that the king is just completely stuck, can't go anywhere, especially can't go anywhere after this move. Knight f7 checkmates, and that's what you do. You sacrifice the queen on g8, force him to take, and like kind of buckle up his king with pieces around the king, and then you just lay it on him. Knight f7 checkmate. The king can't take his own soldiers or his. A rook is technically a building, right? Or his home, so or one of his homes actually. So that's just checkmate. And it's possible in a lot of positions. Queenside castling. This is even possible when the king's not castled yet, just right here. This pawn's pinned. This pawn isn't here anymore, and you just checkmate on this square with the king with no squares to move to. A smothered mate doesn't mean exactly this position. It just means whenever you checkmate with a knight, because it can hop over pieces, and the king can't like it can't, and the king is checkmated because all of the king's own soldiers are around him. The back rank checkmate is probably the most must know checkmate that I'm gonna share today. Just because unlike I don't know the rook checkmate for example, it's not a must know because after you're mating with a king and a rook and your opponent has no pieces, even if you don't know how, at least it's a draw, you don't lose. But if you don't know how to defend yourself against the back rank mates, or if you're losing and your only hope is the back rank mate but you don't know how to do one, then you're kind of screwed. So it's more of a must know checkmate. Like, let me show you an example of the back rank checkmate. In this position, it looks fine for black, it's like it's fine, a it's fine. I mean, it's a knight for a bishop, whatever, that's I mean the pawn will I don't know. Or the knight will the knight's fine, it's just an equal it just looks like an equal endgame. Three pawns, knight, bishop, rook, queen. Like what could go wrong? Sure, white's king might develop a little bit faster, but will that even affect the game? And how do I say this? With the back rank mate, it's probably the most annoying mate just because it's pretty much the stupidest way to lose. You've played well all game. You've thought 20 minutes on every move now, and you just miss takes, and then the oh so satisfying move. Rook takes a d8, mate in 2. It's mate in 2, not checkmate, because there's queen e8, then we just take it, then it's checkmate. But that's just an example of the back rank checkmate and how devastating it could be. But just know when your opponent sacrifices a queen at a rating like above 300, or above like 200, honestly, just think about it. Especially in the end game when there are no pieces on the board. Checkmates like this, or checkmates with I don't know, like a smothered mate or something, or winning a queen or a skewer. It's just so simple when there are like not many pieces on the board and you have one straight target. So just pay really close attention when your opponent sacrifices a queen. But if you're under 200 rating watching this video, don't worry about it. Somebody at your rating will not have the IQ for this move. Don't worry about it. So yeah, like I said before, for the back rank checkmate, all you have to do, just for black, like black should have done, just queen f8, or rook takes. That works too. Rook takes, check. Just don't invite the rook over to the back rank, because then there's probably gonna be a back rank checkmate. That's my advice. Have you ever won in a king and pawn endgame and you promote to a queen because it's obviously the best piece out of the four, and You just don't know how to mate with a queen. Isn't that just the most frustrating thing? You know, you gotta play your opponent completely, destroy him, completely annihilate him, and then he gets away with the draw. Has that ever happened to you? Well, fear no more, because if you're gonna watch this clip of how to mate with a queen, that problem will no longer exist for you. Like in this position, where white is in a position that you might have been, and white, aka me, who's gonna teach you the mates, knows how to do a queen mate. Woohoo! And, well, with a queen, there are a ton of ways to mate, but there's no way to mate in the center because the king will always have a square to go then. So what you have to do is just quickly get the king to the corner. Unlike with the rook, it's much simpler. You just like pretty much randomly move your king and queen, and the king is just gonna be stuck eventually. Just check. You just move it, bang it, you just check. And then the thing with the queen, unlike the rook you can also stalemate, but with the queen, it's so much easier to stalemate. Like once when I've been at like 2,000 rating, I've stalemated with a queen. I don't know what came over me, and just I think I won. I go king b6 like in this position. I think no matter where the king moves, hint hint, the king can't move, I checkmate next move. But it's stalemate. No matter where the king moves, the king can't move. So what you do instead is with high IQ, after you get in like this position, for example, instead of being stupid and going king b6, try to figure out a move with your queen, like here, for example, where the king will have a move like this, for example, here, here, and you just eliminate the squares for your opponent, not checking. You just eliminate the squares, like boom, for example, here, check. You can check. If here we checkmate, so can't go there, can't go here. Um, if here, then we mate, because they're here, then checkmate. If if here, then check, bing, bang, bang, and you're just gonna get the mate. So after you just sneakily move your queen away, just like wait for the king to get to some square, then you can try to look for those mates. Like in this position, I mean, sure, here, like eventually, he'll do something, but that's not the point. The point is, like, the point is that you shouldn't just check with the queen like perpetually and then just get the king to a corner completely, because then there's a huge risk of stalemate. What you instead do is you just play, and you don't always have to check. Like with the queen, I had such a mistake before. You always think I have to keep checking or else. Oh wait, or else what? Like nothing happens. 50 move rule? Are you kidding me? It takes 5 moves to mate with the queen. Like here, and it just you gotta look for not the right away mates. You gotta think about the longer, more how should I say this? More classical mates, more pretty mates. You move the queen away, forcing the king to go to some square. Then you move the queen back when the king is already in the square you want it to be. Like in this position, you just move it away. King eventually gets somewhere. You mate. Have you ever promoted a pawn to a queen when you already had a rook, and you didn't just want to mate with the rook because with the queen and rook you couldn't exactly know how to do it? Like sure, you knew how to do it technically, but you stalemated sometimes and you just wanted to be safer, and you wanted to figure out a way to do it quickly without stalemating or running out of time. Well, here's the strat. In this position, white is left with the exact position you might have had, where the checkmate is called the ladder mate because it's kind of like a ladder. You move the king down, leave your queen and rook, or 2 rooks or 2 queens, like some space, and let's say the king goes to c6 here, and if here, then here, and then checkmate, because the king can't, after here, the king can't move towards the rook, because the rook is kind of like a wall. Like, a ladder mate, because the wooden piece on a ladder, it's kind of like a wall for your foot. And in this case, your foot is one move closer to your checkmate. Very, very, very interesting example. And let's say you're on a longer run, like they go here, for example, and you go here, here, and again, here's your little like wood piece to for your foot to step on, your queen, the wall, and you just mate. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Then queen f4, they just take it, but you can figure it out. I mean, queen d2, they keep the king on the file to not go any further. Then we just mate. Usually it's better to have the rook in front so you don't sacrifice your queen. But even if your rook is in front at first, you can easily just move it around for it to go to the back, and that's just how you checkmate.